And good morning. Is this thing working? This is an impromptu I Need Coffee episode. I'm actually trying to do something entirely different, and that is do the next video in the Learning BC development from scratch. But of course, while trying to get that set up, nothing is ever simple, and I came across a mess, and I'm thinking, I better clean this up. And rather than just try to clean it up and kind of pretend it didn't happen, I thought, well, I can't be the only one with this potential issue, so why don't I just share? And that's kind of my theme. I just run into problems or whatever and just show you what I'm doing to fix it. And this one, fortunately, was relatively quick and simple thanks to Freddy. So let's take a look at this. So the topic is cleaning up old Business Central Docker images. And this may not be relevant for you depending on your build process, but for me it's definitely relevant. If you have seen some of my older videos in June 25th, apparently, I made a video showing how I created a PowerShell script that would automatically build a new Business Central Docker container every day. So every morning when I sit down, I know that on my Docker server, I have a fresh BC container with the latest version, the latest build. And not only do I have that new container, but I have a script that also updates BCContainerHelper, which can be just as important. So it first updates BCContainerHelper, makes sure I'm on the latest version of that PowerShell module, if I'm got the terminology right. And then it creates a new BC Docker container for me. And I thought I had a script to clean up my actually, I think my script does clean up the old container, but I was not able to figure out a good way to remove the old Docker image or potentially old Docker image, because sometimes the Docker image will change once a week, sometimes it'll change every day, and I didn't dig in deep enough to figure out, okay, how do I identify an old Docker image and delete it? Well, of course, Freddy is 5 steps ahead of me on this, and so the problem is, this is what my Docker image list would look like. And this is what I saw this morning. It went on and on and on. And I have months of Docker images, as you can see, and they're like 16 gigs each. And that's a lot of space when you have, 50, 100 of these things. So how do you clean this up? Well, good question. I looked into this earlier, but the Docker RMI command is a little different than Docker RM. So it appears to be easier to clean up Docker containers than it is to clean up Docker images. And the recommendation I've seen, and I just got on Twitter this morning is, well, just use Docker prune. Docker prune images, and that'll clean things up. That is true technically, but if you notice, the one problem with Docker prune that I have, and it's not a huge deal, but it kind of defeats one of the features of BCContainerHelper. And that is when you create your images, you have this base OS image that is highlighted in red here. And that base OS image effectively doesn't change as long as you're on the same version of Windows and a Windows update hasn't incremented that build number at the end. That image can just stay there for, say, 6 months, and you don't need to re-download that very large image. It saves you a lot of hassle. BCContainerHelper just needs to download the artifacts for a given build of Business Central, whatever that latest build is or whatever image, whatever version number you're targeting. So Docker image prune, my experience has been that it will clobber this because this image is not tied to a running container or even a stopped container. So it looks like an orphaned unused image, and image prune will clobber this, and you got to re-download the OS image all over again. Kind of defeats the purpose of images. So, oops. what do you do? Now, I looked into, okay, how can I use a PowerShell script to figure out, delete all this stuff that I don't use, but keep this one? And it's a little more tedious than I would have liked. And I looked into it, I kind of got close, but I gave up because Docker RMI is just a little different and you need to parse this. It starts to get kind of tedious and messy. So I didn't find a good way. Turns out, Freddy wrote about this on June 25th. And wouldn't you know it, that is the exact same day that I made this video. But I didn't read his entire blog post fully, and I don't know that it would have dawned on me and I would have recognized it. I should have recognized it, but I hadn't been running my daily build very long at that point, so I don't know that it would have dawned on me I needed this. So, Flush-ContainerHelperCache is the command that Freddy has included, and what it does is clear out your Business Central containers, images, artifacts, and all the stuff apparently that hasn't been used in so many days. So there's a keepDays parameter, so you can flush all that out. Exactly. Yep. He's the man. So when you run this, so check out that blog post. It has quite a bit of information, and I did reference it in one of my sessions earlier, but I neglected to see this very important item. And yes, Jeremy says, I also missed that key Freddy post. Feel like I should reread the whole thing every 6 months. And I'm sure Freddy would agree with you, because I know that Freddy is inundated with support requests and questions, and he's like, it's in my blog post. I'm sure that he's just got that on copy and paste. It's in my blog post from 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago. So reread his blog post from June 25th, working with artifacts. I need to reread the whole thing, but there it is, Flush-ContainerHelperCache, and -cache BC artifacts -keepDays 7. I don't know all the parameters to this yet, but I just tried this, and look at that. I just ran this and it just started removing all sorts of stuff, and it appears to be faster than using Docker RMI. Now, I just ran this and it worked well, removed a lot of stuff, but after it was done, you'll see removing. I ran Docker images again, and for some reason, I still have old stuff. I have stuff from 8 to 11 days ago, and then I have stuff 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, and months ago. So I'm not quite sure why. I don't understand the mechanics. I just ran it for the first time, but I still have some old stuff. Not nearly as much. It did clean up a lot of stuff, but let's take a look at my actual Docker server here. So you see Docker images. I have this old stuff. I ran Docker RMI, and this took quite a while on just this one 3-month-old image. After a minute or so, it deleted all this good stuff. So I ran Docker images again, Docker RMI 90CAF. So, and if I say Docker RMI 6E71, okay, so there's dependent images. So it could be that there are some dependencies in these older images, and even the Flush-ContainerHelperCache is unable to clean them up for some reason. Probably because I waited so long, who knows. But what I'm going to do now is I am going to, where is it? I'm going to update my daily container build script to add this in there after I manually clean up these really old ones and see if that keeps my images from piling up. I may be doing something that is preventing this ContainerHelperCache flush from working properly. So anyway, I'm going to look into that. I'm going to add that to my daily build process and try to have some automated housekeeping. So I was originally intending to do the developing from scratch. So let me get back to that and try to get that working, try to get back on track. So anyway, just thought I'd share this and hope it's helpful. Go check that out. And there we go. Cheers.